What is up? We're back. Hey, it just keeps getting wilder and wilder, right? Mr. Samich, how are you today?
Man, the hits don't stop, right? I mean, I feel like we're on like a Backstreet Boys album from the mid-90s here. Everything's just a #1 single as this thing comes off. It's amazing how much news is breaking hour by hour as this thing goes down. So it's, the hits don't stop, man. How you doing?
Man, I've been on a couple of shows nationally or whether it be Sirius XM or locally. My hometown had us on a radio show, and that's what I tell them. I said, I'll give you the information I have now, but it's really minute by minute. Things change. We are here to talk about the Preakness, and we will definitely do that once the Preakness draw gets going and we know who's in the field, and we'll break that down for you for sure. But as we wait, because it's always a little late when they get to drawing these things, it says it was going to happen at 4 p.m. Eastern. It hasn't happened yet, but I guess we can kind of highlight the breaking news today as the narrative continues to change on this Bob Baffert saga. Earlier this morning, Bob Baffert admits that, hey, we may have used something that had betamethasone in it. Oh, really? After 2 days of telling us, no way, I don't even know what that is. Oh, and now you may have done so. What do you think of the Bob Baffert strategy today, Mr. Samich?
I think it's borderline genius. I mean, I think if you're going to take an L here, the best way to do it is whoops, didn't mean to do that. Right? And if that's the best way to take an L, because that's the way that you're going to be able to get off in the most scot-free manner, right? Just say, I'll do better in the future, make sure this doesn't happen again.
I totally agree. I think he did the right thing. Hold on. The right thing for himself in the long term. You just take the L. There's not going to be a way around this. You take the L and you move on. And I think what this does with the admission of, maybe we did use something that's going to cause that positive, there's not going to be any kind of argument for an appeal. So if the split sample comes back positive, he's probably screwed. He's out of the Kentucky Derby. He's going to get disqualified. And I think, I don't think he wins either way with the horse racing people. We all kind of know what's going on here and have for a while, but he may have won with the common fan if he would have just done this at the first. But to come out and deny and say we didn't do it, and it's a conspiracy and all this crazy shit, and now to say this today, I think he's lost everybody, right?
I mean, we'll see. I mean, I think his main concern is not losing the racetracks, right? And coming out and saying that okay, our bad. We didn't realize that this specific, betamethasone is in this specific cream. It gives him plausibility from a racetrack perspective. I think that is really his main concern, is he wants to be able to run horses and get the horses and get them into the track. And this excuse is one that gives him that ability. So, I mean, I think that it's the right, from his perspective, it's the correct play. If you think the second test is going to come back positive.
Yeah, exactly. And, we're getting a lot of comments chiming in. He's a liar. It's BS. And I think you and I'm not going to speak for you, but for me personally, I would tend to agree with that comment. But here's the thing. Say you believe Bob Baffert. Say you believe him and you're like, yeah, he did it. He just didn't know. He just didn't know. Think about that. He has shown a complete he's lost control of his barn. He has no idea what's going on in his barn. If he doesn't know what's going on with his Derby horse, that's crazy. If he doesn't know what's being administered to his Derby horse for 3 days after they get this positive test, he really doesn't have any idea what's going on in his barn. And that's also bad for business, I would think, for him too. So either way, he's not looking good today.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that you either seem wildly incompetent and just not, how do you not know that something when it's on the label is in the specific cream, right? And then B, how do you not know that that cream had been administered for what he said was 16 straight days, 17 straight days? I mean, so either you're incredibly incompetent or you were cheating. Those are the two options we have right now. And if I'm spending $600,000 on a horse, the incredibly incompetent part is scary, but at the same time, he also is getting the best results. And like we talked about yesterday on the Magic Mike show, you know, the best results is really what matters to a lot of these owners. And so that kind of is the unfortunate truth of the situation that we're in.
It's absolutely true. And what you said is right. He gets the results. And this is, at the end of the day, this is a money-making business. And you want to try to make money on these horses, and you've got a limited amount of time to do it. And that's how he's continued to get these. But you're right. I mean, for 15 days, you know, that he's claimed that this cream was applied, and he didn't know about it. And it's crazy. If you come out on Sunday and you say, hey, yeah, we applied this cream, and I've talked to my vets, and this is what happened. As bad as it is, that's one thing. But to deny and go on every news program that'll have you on and deny and now come out with this, it's wild. He's definitely unraveling a bit mentally, I think. So it's pretty crazy. So we have started the draw for the Preakness, and just real quick, I guess we can announce it. Medina Spirit in post 3 for the Preakness. So Medina Spirit has drawn post 3. Quick thoughts on that post position for him.
I mean, I think he drew pretty well. I mean, I've got do you have the full field up? I have the full field here.
Oh, they've drawn the whole thing already?
Yeah, man. You got to stick out on TVG. So yeah, the one post, I'll go outward. The one post, oh, that's not good. The one post is Ram. Okay, now I have to find it again.
Okay,
all right, here we go.
Got it if you don't.
One post is Ram, Ricardo Santana 30-1. 2, Keep Me in Mind, David Cohen 15-1. 3, Medina Spirit, John Velasquez 9-5. 4, Crowded Trade, Javier Castellano 10-1. 5, Midnight Bourbon, Irad Ortiz Jr. 5-1. 6, Rombauer, Flavian Pratt 12-1. 7, France Godaina, Joel Rosario 20-1. 8, Unbridled Humor, Luis Saez 15-1. 9, Risk Taking, Jose Ortiz 15-1, and the 10 Concert Tour 5-2. So Baffert 1-2 in the morning line odds here.
So first initial thoughts as I type this out so we can scroll it on the screen here. First initial thoughts of the draw. We kind of talked about, let's forget about everything else and let's talk about the race real quick. We kind of talked about, hey, this is an important draw because pace setup matters within this crop. Your initial thoughts after seeing this?
And I think same thing after the Derby. Medina Spirit just won the draw. The horse's inside speed. You've got Ram and Keep Me in Mind inside of Medina Spirit. Neither of them have a lick of speed. Midnight Bourbon is your next fastest horse, quote unquote fastest horse. I still would argue that Midnight Bourbon is not an E8 horse. I think that, you know, the Midnight Bourbon was running up front in slower races than what Medina Spirit and Concert Tour were running in. You have Concert Tour drawing the 10 outside, which essentially is the ideal blocker spot, right? I mean, you're going to have Medina Spirit on the lead, on the rail. You're going to have Concert Tour sitting a half length behind on the outside of that. This sets up really well for Medina Spirit again if Midnight Bourbon doesn't 100% send out of the gate.
The one thing I would say, we kind of talked about it yesterday, I wanted Midnight Bourbon to draw in between Medina Spirit and Concert Tour for the fact of, you know, maybe we can get next to Medina Spirit and we can kind of like move away from that blocker that is Concert Tour. And I think that's a good thing. But you're right. I think he did win the draw. I mean, he's going to get the same sort of trip that he got in the Kentucky Derby. As long as he breaks well, he'll get ahead of those two horses to his inside, like you put really easily. No speed there. He'll get to the rail, and he's going to have another shot to take the field gate to wire. I do think Midnight Bourbon can put pressure on him. And Concert Tour, it's going to be really interesting, right? Do they just send that horse as hard as they can out of the gate, try to get that position and beat Midnight Bourbon to the punch, so to speak? I mean, I think that's what will happen, right?
Well, Concert Tour is the faster horse. Let's be very clear. Mm-hmm. I mean, Bob Baffert made that clear when he tried to rate Medina Spirit in the Santa Anita Derby. He was trying to teach Medina Spirit to rate for 4 or 5 straight races because he had Concert Tour and Life is Good. And he felt both of those horses were faster and better off on the lead. Concert Tour should make the lead rather easily here if Concert Tour wants the lead. I think the 10 post makes it a little interesting because I don't think you have much choice if you're Mike Smith but to send. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's and I'm going to think long and hard about this. I'm probably going to pick whatever Baffert horse I think makes the lead into the first turn. I mean, that to me, I think is really how this sets up. Midnight Bourbon isn't a horse that loves to pass other horses, tries hard, grinds, but doesn't love to pass other horses. We saw that in Louisiana. So, and then the question is, do you take one of these new shooters that's coming in here? And, for me, I'm not really interested in either of the brown horses. I get why some people are, but to me, they've been facing pretty weak competition up in New York. And so that's not necessarily something I really want to jump after. And so then you're looking at you're looking at Rombauer and France Godaina and I'm not touching Ram. And so it's just, it really leaves your kind of the list short. I mean, I guess Unbridled Humor is kind of interesting with Saez. You get 15-1 on a Pletcher horse that's improving. But yeah, I mean, this is one of those situations where the pace is up to two horses that are in the same trainer's barn. And that happens to be Bob Baffert.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's go over just a couple of questions. I know Mike is on baby duty as well. We're just trying to hope that the baby does not wake up. So I guess it's not baby duty, child duty.
Child duty. There you go. Yeah. I'm on daddy duty. We'll call it that way.
Exactly. Yes. Magic would be on baby duty. You're on daddy duty. Here's the thing. Here's an interesting comment. Nick Feldman says, hard to imagine Irad sins hard. He is on Midnight Bourbon, the other speed. Do you kind of see that as the same way as when Rosario was on Rock Your World? It's like, hey, hard to see him sinning. I mean, do you factor that into it when you're thinking about the all-important pace that's getting ready to happen?
Yeah, and I actually agree with Nick's comment, the one directly below it too. I talked about a lot of this leading up into the Derby. I don't believe that Midnight Bourbon is that E8 pace. I feel like he's been running slower half miles. We talked about how Medina Spirit had 4 of the 6 fastest half miles. None of those 4 of the 8 fastest half miles in prep races. None of those half miles, the top 8, came out of any Louisiana race. So the pace was just slower in Louisiana in all of those races. And Midnight Bourbon was on or close to the lead in a lot of those, but I mean, we saw Hot Rod Charlie go down in Louisiana Derby and wire that field, and Midnight Bourbon wasn't as fast as him from an early perspective. Mm-hmm. Concert Tour and Medina Spirit are just, simply put, faster than anyone else in this field in that first quarter mile and half mile without having to try to be fast, which is so important. I mean, it's one Medina Spirit can go 23:46 and be comfortable. Midnight Bourbon has to be ridden to go 23:46, and that just causes problems.
It does. And with Irad on and the way this thing's drawn, it does kind of, you can see the picture in your head. Medina Spirit breaks, goes to the lead. Concert Tour, they rush to the front. And Irad just kind of naturally, I'm going to take back and sit in the stalking position. I don't see 3 horses across the track as they make that first turn there at Pimlico battling for the lead. I'm with you. I don't think it's going to happen. The big factor for me in the race is, how will the Baffert horses show up? Like that's my biggest thing. It's like, are they a red flag because of what happened? And if you think he's cheating, is he really going to be bold enough to do something here? Or is it going to be the opposite, where it's like, I got to show these people I can win. Even after I've gotten, this positive test, I still got to go up there and win this race. How do you think they'll show up here?
I mean, I'm going to handicap this race like they're 2 Bob Baffert horses.
Take them for face value, right?
Right. I mean, I talked about this last year when Authentic beat me. I don't want to get beat by these horses. If I believe that they have a pace advantage, which is why I picked Medina Spirit, not because it was a Bob Baffert horse, but because I believe he had a pace advantage, I'm not as concerned about these horses getting the distance. Yeah. And I feel like if you can figure out which one makes the lead, you have the most likely horse to win. If Concert Tour goes off at 5, I actually think Concert Tour should be the favorite in this race. Yeah, I do. But I'm not sure if that's going to be how they ride the horse. I mean, that's, to me, the biggest thing that I'm trying to factor in is, what can I figure out about the jockey and the trainer's instructions here, right? Mm-hmm. Are you going to see a situation where Bob Baffert's going to say to Mike Smith, sit off of Medina Spirit? Or is he going to say, ride the horse's best chance to win? I mean, because honestly, that if we talked about this specific race without the Preakness or without the Derby happening, Concert Tour is what, 6-5 to Medina Spirit 7-1, 6-1, right? I mean, the reason that Medina Spirit's the favorite here is because it just won the Derby, not because anyone thought it was a better horse for the last 5 months than Concert Tour.
Yeah, you take out the Arkansas Derby, and Concert Tour certainly is a huge, huge favorite in this race, but you can't do that. And I understand people's pause for cause. I mean, or pause for concern after that was just a brutal effort there in Arkansas. But the setup definitely could be different today. You mentioned new shooters. If I have to force you to take one, who do you like? I mean, I'm with you. It seems like a bit of a mess. To me, I'll take Crowded Trade. He's been consistent. What do you think?
I would probably lean toward Unbridled Honor. And I mean, maybe Francisco de Ina is the other one because it's just such a wild card. I mean, it's an unknown horse where it's just coming in and you just don't have that much information about it. I do believe that Japan is getting better from that perspective. From a horse perspective, you're seeing more sires go over there and you're seeing horses compete more when they travel internationally. So I think that you're going to get a lot of people overlooking the 7-horse Francisco de Ina. And I think that horse has a shot at hitting the board at a pretty big number. But I mean, this is the type of progression we like to see from Pletcher. Unbridled Humor ran second to King Fury last time out. King Fury was getting some buzz. The pace setup for both these horses is so important, though. I mean, you have, 4 or 5 pace-dependent closers in here? And that's why it's so hard to pick one of these new shooters, because you feel like you need a pace up front, and you feel like on paper you have it, but the paper speed is the same trader again. Like, look, man, if we get Concertor Medina Spirit to go out 22 and change, 46 and change, yeah, this thing could collapse, and then you could get a big time price home. It's just a question of whether or not they'll press each other.
That's the big problem. You're right. If you don't look at the trainers and you look at the race on paper, you think, oh, Medina Spirit, Concertor, they're going to go head to head, and this could really set up. You just know logically that's not going to happen. And if it does, you just fall out of your seat. Like, I can't believe it just happened. Like, that would just be insane. One thing I want to address before we go, and trust me, I understand this. Don't play the Preakness. Michael Myers says we could just skip and not handicap. I get it. I understand. I don't blame anybody if that's what they do. My take on it is you're kind of letting Bob Baffert win in a way. You're letting him take away one of the biggest days of racing. My advice, if you want to do that, I would skip the races that he's in, but I would still play the other ones, because you don't want to ruin one of your biggest days just because this guy has done this. And again, I don't really blame anybody if that's the approach they want to take. I respect it, but personally, I've thought about this a lot, and I'm not going to let him ruin the sport that I like. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, pretty simple. I mean, some people love to go golfing. Some people love to go to a baseball game. I love to sit in front of a TV and play horses. And these are 2 of the days where those horses you're going to see the best races in those spots. I can tell you the amount I bet into the pick 3, pick 4, pick 5s ending in the Preakness is going to change. But for me, it's the undercards I think are pretty solid on both these days. I'm excited about playing into the bigger pools on both of these days in the undercard. And so I understand where everyone's coming from, especially if you had Mandaloon and you're frustrated over everything that's happened. I understand that the situation is not the best, but I also agree with you. Like, I'm not going to let one guy take away what I really enjoy, and I get it.
Yeah, I mean that's just the best way to put it. It's again, and I understand. Like, don't complain. I mean, if that's how you feel, I get it. I'm not trying to convince you otherwise. I'm just saying that's my feelings on it. We've talked about it, and it is what it is, right? I mean, it's a bad situation right now. I wish there would have been a way where we could have kept these horses from entering, but I just think legally there was just no way they could do it without getting roasted. So I don't. Go ahead.
Honestly, I think that they did as much as they could here. I mean, getting Baffert to agree to pre and post race testing and out of competition testing is more than I was expecting them. Baffert could have just said, "Screw you, we're running," and they don't really have any ramification to stop him because of the legal implications it could be against them if the split comes back negative. I mean, the split taking 4 to 8 weeks is where we failed here. On top of a bunch of other things. But that split not being backed by the draw today is a huge miss by the entire horse racing community. And it's absurd that in the Kentucky Derby, the splits aren't just sent out on the day of. Just send them both out, get them both back in 4 days. If it's positive, game over, spend the extra money. It's literally your biggest day in racing, and it solves the problem about all of this back and forth.
You're right. There's another aspect to it, and that is our system is getting exposed in a major way with this. And that's something you and I and everybody on the team, and something we've said publicly. This is not just something we've talked about with each other. We've said it publicly. It's a mess, and someday it will get exposed. And lo and behold, a negative or a positive test in the Kentucky Derby certainly will get a lot of media attention, as we've learned. All right. We'll keep it quick. You'll be seeing us all week, leading up here. We got the Ricky's Rockets on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We've got a special Magic Mike show on Thursday. I've been invited back by you, Mr. Samich, and we might have a special other person making an appearance on the Magic Mike show. Kind of excited about that. I'm sure we'll do live streams the day of as well. Got a lot going on. Blinkers off. Should mention that as well. So the coverage isn't over. And now, listen, if anything breaks tomorrow, major news will probably come in live with that as well. But for now, that's kind of all we got. The horses are going to be entered, or have been entered, I should say. Baffert has kind of admitted guilt, possibly. So that's the news for now. And if we have any more, we'll definitely break it for you. So, Mike, we'll be seeing you this week, I'm sure. And anything else?
Yeah, we'll be making the rounds. We've got the Magic Mike show on Thursday. I'll be on You Better You Bet on Thursday. So I'm sure they will ask for a super again if anyone's interested in checking that out. And then, we're just kind of making the rounds and excited about Saturday. I mean, the fun part, we're going to be able to be live for the first time in one of these major stakes races. So make sure you check out the live show on Saturday. We'll be covering a lot of these races.
Yep. Very exciting. I'm glad you mentioned the You Better You Bet. I hadn't heard that yet. So that's great. So everybody tune into that. And, guys, we'll be seeing you a lot this week, and hopefully the news only gets better from here on out. Thanks, everybody, for joining us.